And we're going to talk about calls for the government to adopt a definition of Islamophobia. It's backed by a group of MPs from various parties, and it's something the government itself has so far rejected. Sahar Al-Faifi is the Deputy Secretary-General of the Muslim Council of Wales. She's in Cardiff, and she joins me now. Welcome to our programme. On this definition, what seems to have worried some people is it defines Islamophobia rooted in racism, but then says a type of racism that targets expressions of Muslimness. If people were to criticise what you're wearing at the moment, which is, I assume, an expression of Muslimness, would that be Islamophobia?
First of all, thank you very much, Andrew, for having me today to explain my point of view about this definition. The definition says Islamophobia is rooted in racism and is type of racism that targets expression of Muslimness and or perceived Muslimness. And I think we have to differentiate between the freedom of speech and freedom of hate and bigotry. The definition, it's clear. It doesn't say that you cannot criticize Islam, you cannot criticize expression or parts of the faith. No, the freedom of speech is a dear value that needs to be protected and is part of our British way of life. But we have to make a clear distinction between freedom of speech and freedom of bigotry. What we are saying in this definition that is endorsed by Muslim Council of Wales, by many Muslim organisations and over 80 academic, what they're suggesting is that we need to tackle Islamophobia in its different forms that include the cultural forms, the sociological forms and so on.
Definition is that it's expressions of Islamophobia is about expressions of attacking expressions of Muslimness. So I come back again. If people attack the wearing of the niqab or other or the extension of Sharia law, is that Islamophobia?
It is Islamophobia if you are spreading false information and misconception.
No.
It is Islamophobia if you are...
Is it Islamophobia to say that people should not wear what you're wearing? Is it or not?
Islamophobia, it's if you are attacking me and saying that I am a letterbox and a bank robber, this is Islamophobia. If you are saying, you know what, I don't agree with your choice of wearing the face veil, I would protect your right to express it.
But
so it's the way that you say it.
I thought you said we had, it may be distasteful, because you're referring to the words Boris Johnson used about the letterbox, and people may regard that as distasteful, unpleasant, unnecessary. But, yeah, isn't it covered by freedom of speech? Is that Islamophobia?
No, what we have to appreciate that the definition is not only about the face veil. It does cover the structural and institutional Islamophobia, and it's quite disappointing that the Conservative and the government is rejecting it, because the message they're trying to get across that you, British Muslims, are not equal citizens and you don't deserve to be protected. Islamophobia is not identified, and hence how can we be tackling it?
All right. Whether the definition the MPs give would protect Muslims from Islamophobia attacks or whether it would inhibit free speech. Now, many Muslim scholars say that homosexuality is offensive to Allah. If people say they are wrong and that is offensive in itself, Muslim scholars should not be saying that. Is that Islamophobia?
Muslim scholars have the right to say this, and other people have the right to criticize it. It is about the language that you're using. If you are demonizing and alienating segment of the society, then this is Islamophobia. If you're not enabling people of the Muslim faith to get job because of the way they look, this is Islamophobia.
On jobs on the basis of race, colour, creed, that's already illegal.
Yes, but what you have in the workplace is subconscious biases. You have insidious racism. And because we have enabled so many high-profile politicians and academic, and also people like clear Islamophobes like Douglas Murray, who said once to have less Islam, we must have less terrorism. How can you really tackle the entire issue without defining it?
All
and
right.
that is the problem.
Let me put the point. Paul Scully, what do you say to that? Because your party is the one that is not agreeing to this definition.
Well, this is a definition that has been agreed with an all-party parliamentary group. So a small number of MPs have brought bits of research together. I think it was Khalid Mahmood, the Labour MP, that wrote the foreword for the Policy Exchange report, which actually agreed not to agree this. What the Prime Minister and government have done, they haven't dismissed everything out of hand. They said, actually, we don't agree with this for the reasons that you've said, because it's conflating religion with race in many and other reasons. But what we're going to do is get a couple of advisors in to see how we can work something up that will actually satisfy the police, who have been concerned about anti-extremism, for the idea that it conflates race with religion, which was Trevor Phillips himself, for the Commission of previously the Commission of Racial Equality raised the concerns about. So we can bring all those people together and satisfy them that we can tackle.
Madeline, what do you make of this?
Well, I think that there are a number of kind of unintended consequences of taking on this broader definition. There are quite a few counter-terror experts who've raised concerns that taking on board this broad definition could make it actually very hard for the government to maintain many of its kind of counter-terror operations, including Richard Walton, who's the former head of counter-terror for the Met. And lots of organisations, including one called Tell Mama, whose job it is to actually record Islamophobic incidents, have warned against this term because they see it as a kind of blasphemy law coming in through the back door, so a chilling impact on free speech.
David, your party's backed it. Are you not worried about the broad phrase expressions of Muslimness? By the way, a phrase I've never heard of, expressions of Muslimness, but that is the basis on which the Islamophobia laws will be based?
The Liberal Democrats are really concerned about the rise in hate crime, and we've seen a real debate, quite rightly, on anti-Semitism. We've tried to really work through the definition of that. It's taken some time, but I think we've got there. And I think there is something called Islamophobia. We're seeing Muslims targeted, mostly by the extreme right.
But is this... we know all that, Ed Davey. The question is this the correct definition of it?
I think it's a really, really good start. And what I say to people in the government is if you've got a better definition, put it on the table. I'm absolutely clear we need a definition of Islamophobia. We absolutely have to have one. This one was put together with 80 academics with a year-long consultation. It's the best I've seen. And if others want to come forward to challenge it with a better one, let them do so.
I don't disagree with Ed, really. I think this is like the first iteration of this, isn't it? I think it's...
You think it's just a start?
I think so, yes, yeah. And Saeed Varsi, who was part of the all-party group, the all-party groups of Lords as well as MPs,
yes,
remember?
Of course it is, yeah.
She was disappointed that the terrorism head had not been prepared to engage with them. So, you know, I would say to him, you've got to get engaged with these, you know, so the debate takes account of all these possible unintended consequences and difficulties. It's tricky, I think.
OK, let me go. Hold on. Sahar is being... Sahar, we're coming to the end of this item. I'll give you the final word. What's your... You would now like to proceed on the basis of this definition?
Of course, we support this definition. Muslim Council of Wales supports this definition because we truly believe that Islamophobia is a collective issue, is not a Muslim issue. If we are claiming that we want to have a stable and strong government, then we should have also strong and stable relationship with minorities, including Muslims. And rejecting the definition, it is not really the right message to reinstate that.
Sahar Al-Faifi, thank you for joining us from Cardiff.
It's actually what Madeline talked about Tell Mama. What we've done, we've actually worked closely with Tell Mama to actually work out how we can have a sensible message to explain to Conservative members, elected representatives at every level, how to involve ourselves with whether the Muslim community and wider communities of all the types of diasporas, whether it be Pakistani Muslims, whether it be Sunni, Shia, or even Ahmadiyya Muslims as well, of which there are a number in my area.
But your party chairman has told members that if they share Islamophobic content online, they will be allowed back into the party after 6 months if they just apologise. I thought we were meant to have zero tolerance for these things. Your party has been demanding zero tolerance for Labour on anti-Semitism. Why don't you show us zero tolerance on this instead of saying, oh, well, if you apologise, you get back in 6 months?
Well, clearly it depends on the context of what comments are. Is it someone either inadvertently done something at the bottom of a thread? Is it something because they really just don't understand the context of it themselves, in which case we need to pretty quickly explain it to them? And if it's something that is malicious, then yes, they should be expelled.